You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. This is Clutch with Keon Rose. And we had an action-packed weekend here at Hot News Talk Radio. Saturday, we had Ole Miss versus Alabama. Did we tell you we got you covered in sports? Because I think we got you covered in sports. Ole Miss for Alabama, and it was a barn burner of a game. Alabama with the comeback, coming back from down being 21 to be able to beat Ole Miss to avoid the three-peat in losses to Ole Miss. Some people tweeted prematurely. There was a lot going on in that game. Jalen Hurts, I like him as a quarterback. Dude looks like the real deal. As a freshman, no less. And it's weird to see. He's on a Nick Saban team. And Nick Saban offenses usually do not just usually, they never feature freshman quarterbacks. And it almost looked like Nick Saban didn't want to start Jalen Hurts at quarterback, even when he came out in week one and looked amazing. And now you have no choice. I mean, he's clearly the best quarterback on the roster. He's got the mobility when he throws deep passes. He's got a lot of touch and accuracy. I mean, guy's just fun to watch, man. And the turnover what allowed Alabama to get back in the game. And let me say this about Chad Kelly, because I have been ranting and raving and singing the praises of Chad Kelly all offseason and saying, this guy is probably going to be not the front runner to win the Heisman, obviously, but he's one of the guys you consider because he's such a great quarterback. He might be Sid. He's a little too comfortable. Like, I was watching the highlights of that game. Chad Kelly is a little too comfortable. But back there, I mean, he's so comfortable. Like, it feels like he can deliver any strike that he wants to. He doesn't seem particularly worried about the defense, and that's a problem. He's so confident in his abilities. His pocket awareness is actually suffering. He took some shots in that game, especially he fumbled the ball at the goal line. He really just stepped up in the pocket. Like, if he steps up, he probably doesn't get hit like that. And he probably doesn't cough up the football either. Like, he didn't feel the pressure or he didn't see it. I mean, that's something that you've got to be able to do as a quarterback, especially in the SEC and especially against Alabama, and you've got Florida State coming back on against you the week before. It didn't feel good if you're an Ole Miss fan, albeit that, like, if you had to look, fan, which would you rather be? Would you rather be an Ole Miss fan right now or a Tennessee fan? Or a Georgia fan? I'm not going to lay it all on Tennessee. Like, I would rather be an Ole Miss fan. Which sounds crazy because you have 2 losses, right? But at least you know what your team is capable of. Like, your team is capable of jumping up 21 on somebody. Now it's just a matter of, we got to figure out how to keep our leads. Maybe we get a little bit more conservative after we get. Maybe we just work on getting rid of the football with Chad, not taking so many hits and taking so many sacks. Whatever the case is, I would rather have being able to get up 21 points on somebody. Problems. I like that problem. You get up 21 and somebody comes back on you. It's frustrating for sure, but that's a good problem. That's like if you're an investor or thinking and you money, but then the investment eventually turns sour, then at that point, that's just an issue of figuring out when to get off the ride, like when to get out of bad investments. Like, when is this investment going to turn for the worst so I can make the maximum amount of profit and leave? I mean, those are good problems. Like, if you are a person who starts a business and realizes that you're capable of making a lot of money before your business starts to go south, like, that's a problem that you can fix because you proved that you can make the money in the first place. Where you're at, if you're Tennessee or if you're Georgia, is that question that no fan wants to have to ask about their team, and I'm sure the players don't want to have to ask it about the team. And I don't even know if Butch Jones is capable of asking that about his team because he just Out of his mouth is a parade of cliches. Now, I was watching Butch Jones' press conference, and I got about 6 minutes in, and I was like, he's not going to tell us anything wildly important here. It is about as boring a thing as there is in this world's press conference. Absolutely boring. Like, he just will put you to sleep. He sounds like my high school economics teacher, or an economics teacher that most of you will be familiar with, Ferris Bueller's economics teacher. He just talks like this, and he's droning on and something about the offense and the defense and certain individuals stepped up, which I thought of a drinking game. I do not drink, but if you are a person who has a drinking game, if you watch a Butch Jones press conference, and they're all on YouTube, if you watch a Butch Jones press conference, every time Butch Jones says individuals, take a drink. I thought about suggesting that, but then I was like, you know what? No, I like you guys. I don't want you all to destroy your liver. You will destroy your liver. I've never seen a person fit the word individuals into so many sentences before. Like, every other word is certain individual stepped up, and an individual did this, and an individual did that. How about mixing it up every once in a while? Had a guy do something great. Had a player do something great. I mean, does it have to be individuals every other word? But I digress. When you're Tennessee and you don't know what your identity is, I think that even though you're 3-0, even though you've won all your games so far, these are not great wins. I'm not saying that there's such a thing as victories. You have the 2 losses on your schedule if you're Ole Miss. You do. I mean, you can't take that away. I understand that. However, you look better. You just look better. Like, I would rather watch what it is that Ole Miss is doing and be their fan than watch what it is that Tennessee is doing and be their fan. Because being a Tennessee fan is rough. You're watching heart attack-inducing games against the Ohio Bobcats, against Appalachian State. This is not the cream of the crop, and you roll up on Florida next week. Now, to be clear, Luke Del Rio goes down in their game. We don't know necessarily how good they're going to look without him. I imagine not well. But you got to beat Florida. And I've said this before. You've got to beat Florida. Like, they will run Butch Jones out of town if Buddy does not beat Florida. You have to beat Florida. It's not optional. It hasn't been optional for a while, but it's certainly not optional now. You must beat the Gators. This whole business of 11 years of dominance has got to stop, and they don't have Luke Del Rio. If they don't have Luke Del Rio, you got to beat him. But the issue is you struggle against Ohio. You struggle against Appy State. How are you going to beat Florida? Like, I have doubts about how that's going to work. And I don't know necessarily what Josh Dobbs is. And I see this quote a lot. Josh Dobbs, he is what he is at this point. Meaning what? Meaning that he's more of a runner than a passer? Okay, fair. Meaning that he's not necessarily the most accurate quarterback downfield? Again, fair. But I watched through the 3 games that I have seen of Tennessee this season, Josh Dobbs has displayed some marvelous accuracy. He's thrown some deep balls that look just beautiful, just like works of art. And then the next drive that Tennessee has, and I don't mean like later on in the game, I mean the very next time that the offense takes the field, he's throwing balls into the dirt. He's overthrowing guys by about a mile. And he's just inconsistent. I don't know if this is he is what he is. Like, that's a consistency issue. You got to work on that. And I don't mean like him specifically, but like that's all footwork stuff. That's all like point your feet at your receiver. Make sure to power from your back foot as you throw kind of stuff. And I don't know why it looks so bad, but it looks really bad. Like, Josh Dobbs isn't a roller coaster ride from game to game. He's a roller coaster ride from series to series. And when you start getting up against some of these better defenses, and you are starting with Florida, how's that going to work? Because I think Tennessee can beat Florida. Not Jack, that's his dad. A Luke Del Rio-less Florida is a team that is beatable for the Vols. But I would have thought that Tennessee would have given Ohio that work. You're just better. Ohio doesn't have a secondary. It's all freshmen. I mean, not all freshmen, but all guys that are just all the experience that these guys have being defensive backs come from this season. You just got to rake those guys over the coals. That's just really what it is. You just have to work them over. That's what it is. There's no two ways about it. And they didn't do that. You needed a last-second touchdown to give you that separation to put the dagger in the game. And I'm watching them this season, and they have just looked bad in drives. Now, they've looked really great, too, but they haven't played anybody great yet. And I still do believe what Josh Dobbs said about a week ago, where he said he said at the time they were 2-0, and he said it feels good to have, 2 wins, and no, you haven't played your best football yet. I believe they haven't played their best football yet, but you don't have much time to reveal what it is that looks like. You need to start playing your best football soon, and with all the speed that you can manage, you have to get there soon, because it's starting to get a lot more unforgiving. When you roll up on Florida, it's not going to be quite that way. They're going to punish you for all of the mistakes that you make. When you roll up on Georgia, they're going to punish you for all of those mistakes. Now, you're going to have your chances, because you saw Georgia versus Nicholls State. Georgia looked, if Tennessee is the most perplexing team in the SEC just based on our not knowing exactly what the heck it is that we're watching when we watch them, Georgia is the second most perplexing team in the SEC. I don't know what it is that I see when I watch Georgia football. Because when I see Nick Chubb tearing off large chunks of yardage, that's the Georgia that I know. When you see Jacob Eason hitting people in stride downfield, that's the Jacob Eason we expected. When you see times when the Georgia offense comes in and it's 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, yeah, I don't think anybody saw that coming. I don't think anybody saw what that, because we never saw that under Mark Richt. Not really. Of the times where Georgia really struggled like that. So this is all kind of new. If you're a Georgia fan, and I don't know if you're in any better a boat than Tennessee fan. I mean, you really aren't. Your boat is about the same. It's going to be rough. It goes both ways. If you think you can roll up on Tennessee with that inconsistent offense, you're going to lose the game. You're going to lose the game. It's basically, that one is just a battle of consistency from two teams that are wildly inconsistent. You cannot have this kind of up and down roller coaster game every single game. I mean, you had the nice one against North Carolina where you put together a solid game and you just outplayed them. That was nice. But everything else, no. Just dreadful. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I was reading one of my favorite blogs on the internet, For the Win. It's a USA Today blog, and they were talking adopting teams with one of the writers for USA Today. Well, I don't have the article pulled up in front of me, so as soon as I get his name, I will get that to you, because it is a very good read. And he was talking about adopting a team because, people will root for a lot of the major college powerhouses. Like, I lived in Texas. I lived in San Antonio, just down the I-35 from Austin, Texas. So I root for the Longhorns. Sure, I could root for UTSA, University of Texas in San Antonio, but they didn't have a football team when I was there. I root for the Longhorns. Okay? So I have that, right? And a lot of people, like you live in the LA area, you're probably rooting for UCLA, USC. If you live up in South Carolina, you're probably rooting for the Gamecocks. If you live in Louisiana, you're probably rooting for the Tigers, LSU. Like you root for the major college football program in your area, typically. That's why we have so many Vols fans here in Chattanooga. UTC is fantastic, but we still like the Vols. Or we are close enough to like Georgia too. Right? Like we got close. We're close enough to like Auburn. We like the major college football programs. But this guy was looking for an FCS school to root for. And the obvious school to root for, of course, is North Dakota State because they keep winning constantly. The same school that produced Carson Wentz, who's going to be playing tonight on Monday Night Football against the Bears. The Eagles versus the Bears tonight on Monday Night Football. So you've got the very same North Dakota State who produced the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft from an FCS school, right? So people were talking about like, well, okay, what FCS school should we adopt? And the article was about how if you have not adopted an FCS school yet, you should adopt the Chattanooga Mocs. I was very surprised. It was a very, very good article because first off, it included a lot of UTC highlights. And if you missed the game, and it was a very easy game to miss because I think there was a lot going on that Saturday night. But if you missed the game between UTC and Presbyterian, UTC took it to Presbyterian in a way that does not make sense. Like Presbyterian didn't look like another college playing another college. It looked like they gathered all of the local high school second stringers, got them all together on a field and said, here, play the Mocs. Because it looked like a bunch of men playing boys. It really did. The Mocs are really, really good. And if you want to root for the Mocs, like that to me, first off, makes a ton of sense. You're living in Chattanooga. Support your local team. 1. 2, the Mocs are a sneaky pick for somebody who could take down the evil empire, the aforementioned North Dakota State. North Dakota State has won 3-4 championships in a row. The Bison, at some point, this is the most under the radar dynasty that is happening. And you know how I feel about dynasties. I don't enjoy them. I think they're good for sports because I think people gravitate to dynasties. I think people gravitate to winning. But I don't enjoy them. I like parity. We don't have parity in FCS football. We have North Dakota State. Do you know how big that would be if the Mocs, who, by the way, are outscoring all the opponents they've played so far, a combined 121-14. 121-14. How huge would it be if the Mocs made it to the national title game, Division II football, took down North Dakota State, which is a tough challenge. But I'm looking at the way that the Mocs play. They play fast. They run a lot of plays. They run so many plays. Their defense doesn't have time to rest. Usually that's a bad thing. Usually when your defense doesn't have time to rest, your offense is awful. You're turning over the ball a ton. Nope, not the Mocs. They score so quickly. Their defense does not have time to rest. I like that. It's like if you took the Oregon Ducks Chip Kelly offense and juiced it. That's what you have in the Mocs. I'm going to try and get me to a Mocs game at some point this season. You should try and get to a few, at least. The Chattanooga Mocs are amazing. They look great. They are in the national title discussion. You should be supporting this football team. It's very, very good, and it looks to be good for a long time. Russ Huesman's got this team geared to looking really, really good. I mean, you're already looking down the road. I don't remember the name of the young man from Bradley County High School that's just tearing it up, but he's a Mocs commit. So, I mean, you're already got your quarterback after Alejandro. I mean, this Mocs team might be one of the best sporting things that's ever happened in Chattanooga. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. We'll talk some more college football and some NFL stuff, too, around the corner. Next.
Wars come and go, but my soldiers stay eternal.
Now you can listen to Hot News Talk Radio anywhere, streaming live at Noogaradio.com. That's Noogaradio.com.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Shooter Supply, any A-frame, 20% off, 10% off, 5% off, everything in the store's on sale. 5, 10, 20, September sales days. Shooter Supply, handguns, carry permit classes, ammo and gear. You get 5% off of firearms, 10% off of ammo and gear, 20% off of all handgun carry permit classes. Shooter Supply, September sales days. But you gotta get here now. It's ending soon. Shooter Supply, any A-frame. We're on Hickson Pike, right around the corner, right next to the Holiday Inn Express. Shooter Supply and Indoor Range. Shooters-range.com. Order online. Shooters-range.com. September sales days.
Hi, this is Mike at Wholesale Liquidation, Highway 58, next to Taco Bell, featuring over 6,000 square feet of unique and everyday wholesale items, discounted to, get this, 50 to 75% off of retail, from new and pre-owned tools to chainsaws and auto accessories. Wholesale Liquidation, Highway 58, next to Taco Bell.
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now. 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation, 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
This is Mike at For the Record at Northgate Mall. We're the largest complete record store in town. We sell old and new vinyl records, celebrity posters, music posters, and we are the largest in town. Come see us.
Expect clear skies to continue through the nighttime. Overnight lows comfortable between 60 and 64. Now for your Tuesday, another nice day, lots of sunshine, a little on the hot side for the afternoon, highs near 90, with more mostly sunny and dry weather through the midweek, highs of around 90. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special sauce. Open daily, locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, Ringgold, and now 5203 Brainerd Road. That's Guthrie's. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world. Hot News Talk 1240.
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. Chattanoogan's and other fellow Southerners feeling a smack to the wallet following a gas pipeline breakage in Alabama. Now a 20-cent increase in price just as of today, and that price could be rising over the week as a gas pipeline in Alabama is still spewing gas out of it. A major collection pond has been collecting that gasoline, but it could be spilling out here soon. Major crisis now for the East Coast with gas prices. State of emergency declared in Tennessee, and Governor Nathan Deal in Georgia is considering one as well. A pedestrian walking along DuPont Parkway was hit by a car where the speed limit is 50 miles per hour. This happened at 2:30 a.m. this morning. The victim was rushed to the hospital. In election news, Gary Van Hooser has dropped out of the County Commission District 3 race He's now backing Joe Smith for that race in District 3. He announced this on Friday. He signed papers at the Hamilton County Election Office to have his name taken off of the ballot for the November election. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Hear it live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
When Georgia scored on that fourth down touchdown near the end of the game, what was your reaction? If you're a Georgia fan, I imagine you were very happy. I imagine you were even very excited. I imagine you were incredibly, incredibly excited. I would have been too. If you're a Missouri fan, I mean, I don't even know how sad you could have been there. Like, that's typical Missouri right there. That's prototypical Missouri right there, my friends. But here's something that I found interesting. One Georgia fan had a reaction that went beyond excitement. It went beyond the realms of reason and into some other level. Okay. Georgia fan was watching the game. Jacob Eason throws the touchdown on 4th and 10, right? Wins the game against Missouri. And this guy loses his mind. Just went bonkers and started destroying his own apartment. Just throwing stuff. He picked up the ice cooler, threw it. He jumped onto his bed. He flexed. He ran. He ran to his door, the apartment door that has a glass window kind of thing through it. Jumped headfirst through the window, and then came back. I mean, then there's pictures of him later on Twitter. Guys in the hospital, all kinds of stuff. Over a great football game, but over a football game. My man, bring it down about 10 levels. Turn the volume down to 1. It's too loud. What on earth is wrong with you? Look, I understand. Your team wins the game. You're excited. But this is just craziness. Insanity. How are you going to injure yourself celebrating a football team win? In your house. If you weren't at the game and things got out of hand, you weren't tailgating in the parking lot and stuff got crazy. You were in your house. You were in your apartment, which you also destroyed. I'm not going to lie. I watched it and I was very confused. The guy does look like a bro. I'm not a huge fan of bros. You know bros. Bros say the word bro all the time, but they don't even just say the word bro. They kind of ooze the word bro. What are you talking about, bro? Bro. Look like they spend more time in the gym than they ever did with anything that's got pages in it. So I'm not hugely fond of the bros. Bros are good people. But sometimes bros do like that. Sometimes bros destroy their apartment celebrating a 4th and 10 touchdown with 1:36 left to go in the game. Sometimes bros do that kind of stuff. And I have no words for what that is. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Cannot stress that enough. If you want to get the best in local Chattanooga sports, weather, traffic, news, you've got to check us out. You have to. Also, you get to stream all of our live shows. All of them. Our local shows on YouTube. You get to see what we look like, get to see the inside of our studio. You get to see our lovely Marilyn Monroe picture that we've got going on in the background. Check it out. Also, make sure to check us out on our website, noogaradio.com. That's noogaradio.com or hotnewstalkradio.com as well. And make sure to check us out in the TuneIn Radio app. Make sure you download the app in your favorite app store, whichever one you like the best. Search Hot News Talk Radio inside the app. Give us a favorite. Press play. You'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. TuneIn Radio. Listen like you mean it. So I'm one of those guys. I try not to overreact to everything that happens in football. And part of it is I haven't played fantasy football in about a year or two, and that helps with the non-overreaction because then you get to divorce yourself emotionally from every single game, and then you're just watching football, which to me is just fine. Like, I don't need fantasy football to help me watch football. But at the same time, it helps if you want to get involved in the game, but it also makes it hard to not be that knee-jerk person. But I'm watching the Titans play. I have Delaney Walker on my fantasy football team, by the way, which a good 20 points that he got me, which is like the only person on my team that got me 20 points because I was let down by Matthew Stafford and company and everything else. But I'm not going to talk about my fantasy football team because talking about your fantasy football team is like talking about your dreams and your children and your pets. You care. Nobody else cares. Unless they're in that league with you, you care. Nobody else cares. Just don't care. So I'm watching the Titans play. And they're playing the Lions, and they won the game. But I don't know why I have this feeling with the Titans. I look at the Titans and I think on paper, this team could be the second best team in this division, talent-wise. But they're not going to score a lot of points. And they need to play against the team that's going to probably do a few things to beat themselves mentally. Because it didn't look to me, and I could be reading this wrong, but it didn't look to me like the Titans' defense just came alive and shut down the Lions. Looked like the Lions kind of did some things to beat themselves. And yes, the Marcus Mariota drive coming down in the fourth quarter to put the Lions out or to put the Titans out in front of that game and eventually win it, that was impressive. That's the poise and stuff from Mariota that we wanted to see last week that we didn't really see. He held onto the ball too long at times, and I think he still did this week too. I think Mariota is so athletic and so gifted. I think he thinks he can get away from anything, any pressure, and he holds onto the ball way too long. He really does. And I think it hinders their offense. This offense is very much momentum-based. The Titans need a lot of things to go their way on given drives to complete them. And when those things are clicking, when they're picking up first downs consistently, I mean, they score. But if they have a drive where they start with a penalty or they start, with a run for a loss of a yard or a screen pass or something with that for a loss of yardage, they halt in their tracks. Like, they don't pick up first downs anymore. And I understand that why. Like, I understand the obvious, like, it's harder to do. Like, obviously that wouldn't be a thing. But like, it doesn't, you watch teams like the Patriots, one run for a loss of yardage does not mean you're not picking up a first down. Watch the Cardinals play. It doesn't mean that you're not picking up a first down. You can come back from bad plays. The Titans don't look like a kind of team that can come back from bad plays. Okay. And we're looking at a division that's got the Colts in it. And I still don't know what to make of the Colts. You've got the Titans, obviously. You've got Jacksonville, and Jacksonville is up and down, up and down, up and down. but they're getting better. And you've got the Texans where there isn't a whole lot going for that team outside of, it feels like, DeAndre Hopkins on offense, and on defense, J.J. Watt. The Texans don't look like a team like they won the division last year and they're just head and shoulders above everybody else. So I'd like to see the Titans start to turn this thing around. This win certainly helps. And I know it sounds like I'm being overly critical of the win, but the way that they won is not, it's not super satisfying given the amount of talent that's on that football team. They can do better than that. It's weird. I'm not like, I feel like I'm turning into Nick Saban. Like, well, we won, but we should have won by more. But just look at the way that they played that game. Too many mistakes. Mariota takes some sacks that don't need to be taken. You got to throw the ball away. You know, defensively, you're a bend but don't break kind of defense. But if you play against a more prolific offense, they cut you up. The Lions had a bunch of drops in that game, too. Just bailed you out of some possessions. Where they hold on to the football, and this is a different football game. Or maybe I'm just bitter because Matthew Stafford didn't win me points. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. And as for the Falcons, really, really enjoyed that Falcons-Raiders game. Finally great to see Julio Jones break free. He didn't play very well in the first game of the season, and in the first half of this game, really, he got contained for much of the half up until right before halftime, late in the second quarter, where he breaks free and scores that touchdown. Just absolutely roasted the DB alive. And the Raiders and the Falcons are just going back and forth. And this offense looks awesome the way that they were going up and down the field. Now, I understand that it's the Raiders, okay? And the Raiders did give up 34 points last week. They get away with the win because they scored on that 2-point conversion. So it's easy to forget that they gave up a bunch of points. They gave up a bunch of points. So you knew this was going to be something of a shootout because it's not like the Falcons are the most defensively rigid team either. But both teams were just trading punches, and it felt like a heavyweight match. And this was one of my favorite games of the year that I've seen so far. They just kept going back and forth. When Julio finally started to break out, it was all good. And I'm a huge, huge fan of the way that Julio Jones just warps a defense. Like, you have to account so heavily for him that Jacob Tamme started getting in on the action in this game in a way that I had not accounted for Jacob Tamme being quite this good. Now, I've seen Jacob Tamme be really good before, but I've seen Jacob Tamme play with Peyton Manning. Like, Peyton Manning will make any tight end look really good. You know what I mean? Like, do we think as highly of Dallas Clark if Dallas Clark doesn't play with Peyton Manning? And we all know, I think that Dallas Clark is great. I'm not taking away or diminishing from his greatness. I'm just saying there's some level of playing with Peyton Manning that you have to give to him. Jacob Tamme didn't look quite as good after Peyton left, followed Peyton to Denver, and looked good again. And here's Jacob Tamme looking good with Matt Ryan. So I'm okay with all of those results. But they looked like they could match points with anybody on offense. And it's been a while since we've seen the Falcons really look offensively dominant. Now, if we could only get that defense thing figured out, which I feel like Dan Quinn will get the defense thing figured out because that's kind of his deal. However, I will say this. You just got to spend time on defense getting the personnel. Like, it's weird with defense. Defense, it's not like you can start to see a defense becoming a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. Usually, if you don't have all the parts of a defense, it doesn't work. You either it's like if you're not first, you're last. You either have all the parts and you function, or you don't have all the parts and you just don't look great. And you've got a lot of great defensive masterminds that can scheme and cover up the weaknesses of the defense. But ultimately, those weaknesses are still there, and you play the right team or the wrong team, I guess, and you end up being highly, highly exposed. You end up being highly exposed. So that was interesting to me this weekend. I think things to think about this weekend for sure. Man, what is wrong with the Seahawks? What is wrong with the Seahawks? They looked dreadful against the Rams. Not to talk about my fantasy football team again, but I picked their defense against the Rams, not because they're the Seahawks, but because they were playing the Rams. And, I mean, the Rams just kind of have their number. The Rams just beat them continuously. But in the most hideous of ways, like a 9-3 football game. This is a win that feels like a loss if you're the Rams, by the way. Does anything else prove to you that Jeff Fisher's not actually a good coach than when the Rams win, it looks like that? Like when they lose, it looks like last Monday night, which is arguably one of the worst Monday Night Football games ever televised. I can go on the record and say that. When they lose, it looks like that. And when they win, it looks like this. That doesn't feel good at all. Like, you just feel guilty. Like, maybe we should just give the Seahawks the win because of how this... Like, that's guilt. And we saw it here with Jeff Fisher here in Tennessee. Like, after the Super Bowl run, we didn't have a good Jeff Fisher team. You know what I mean? Like, most teams don't feel guilty for having horrifying-looking 9-6 victories or 9-3 victories. But most teams don't have a bunch of wins that look like that. And the Rams have a lot of wins that look like that, mostly against the Seahawks. And maybe that's just the way that they have to play to beat the Seahawks. But my goodness, that is gross. Like, if you're a Rams fan, how do you feel good about that win? Like, you could say a win's a win, but like, I don't believe that. I believe some wins make you feel gross and disgusting and dirty. Appalachian State and Tennessee. Tell me you felt good after that win? Tell me you felt good, because I didn't feel good. I watched the game, and I felt like I needed a shower when I was done. I just had to go take a bath and wash the stink of that game off of me. I need to take 2 showers to just get the stink of that game off of me. Like like blowouts are not as guilt-inducing as that. That kind of thing makes you feel dirty. And the Ohio game, by the way, Tennessee this last Saturday, that almost made me feel guilty too. Like the way that Georgia won, it was crazy, and in a lot of ways, they should never have been down like that to Mizzou. But there's no shame in how Georgia won. Like, they won putting up points. They won. They went up there swinging. There's no shame in that. How Tennessee's won a couple of these games makes you feel guilty. And the way the Rams won, I'm not even a Rams fan. And I'm certainly not a Jeff Fisher fan because I feel like he's wasted a lot of Titans fans' time. However, that made me feel guilty. I don't know about you. I felt horrible watching that game. You're listening to Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Make sure to stick around after this if you want to hear a radio legend, Alex Jones, coming up after this show. But yeah, some of these victories make you feel like maybe you should have lost. So an exciting time in high school football. I think everyone has been very, very excited about Bradley County. I mean, Notre Dame, Baylor. I mean, you've had some good football these past weekends, and I'm trying to find a way to get to a game early enough. I have been afflicted with the highly inconvenient for high school athletics affliction of Seventh-day Adventism, which is to say that on Saturday, from sunset to sunset, from Friday night to Saturday night, I do not partake in any such things, which is painful and hard for me to do. And I have to record games and I have to find ways to watch games after the fact. But since I have no way of really recording high school football games to watch later, that makes that very, very difficult for me to cover high school football locally, which is crazy because I hear all of the crazy stuff that happens and I'm not able to participate in it. But as far as like, I don't mind watching the games on not religiously obligated to not do so. So I was checking out the Louisville game and I had not looked at the score. Florida State versus Louisville. I didn't check out the score beforehand and I didn't check there either. And so I was not aware to what extent Florida State got their butts handed to them by Louisville. I was not aware. Florida State handed Louisville their behind. No, Louisville handed Florida State their behinds back to them on a platter. Just tore them to pieces. And if you are a fan of Louisville, you're in that position where you get to look at the rest of us and go, I told you. Told you. But I think one of the more important things for Louisville, one of the really important things for Louisville is this whole thing got us talking about Bobby Petrino and football again. It's got us talking about Bobby Petrino and football again, and not Bobby Petrino on a motorcycle, and not Bobby Petrino with a woman that's not his wife, and not Bobby Petrino having an affair. No, we get to talk about Bobby Petrino and football again. Bobby Petrino is back in the driver's seat of news stories concerning Louisville athletics. He's a front runner. He's a front runner. Here's the thing about Louisville and Bobby Petrino. Bobby Petrino, before this game, and by the way, I don't wish anybody ill will, but before this game, had Bobby Petrino died, the only thing we would talk about with Bobby Petrino is Bobby Petrino was on a motorcycle with a woman that he's not married to, and they got into an accident and told horrible lies to try and cover up their story, and they were not very good at it. Which is a humorous way to be remembered and a way that nobody wants to and ought to be remembered. If Bobby Petrino can turn this whole Louisville season in a direction that of what we thought Louisville was going to be able to do this season, the quarterback wins a Heisman, they compete to get into a playoff spot, maybe do get into a playoff spot, maybe even make it to a national title. Now we're talking about Bobby Petrino as a football coach. Because everybody has like the embarrassing thing in their life that they have done or will do, that if their life ended in that moment, that's all you talk about. That's all you talk about. But no, Bobby Petrino has changed the narrative to something positive. So good for Bobby Petrino getting football back where it should be in his life, the thing that we talk about him for, instead of humorous incidents involving infidelity and a motorcycle. That's all I'm saying. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch. I'll see you in 24 hours, but don't you go anywhere. Stick around. Alex Jones is up next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over.
I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News